General Hospital spoilers tease that after all the storms that seemed insurmountable, a ceasefire agreement was finally confirmed between Carly and Jason. Like a fragile glimmer of hope in their severely fractured relationship. Initially, the agreement came with the sincere desire from both sides that there would be no more interference. That each person would be free to walk their own path without resentment, control, or disappointment. Carly, with her heart always burning for her family, chose to let go in order to preserve what little peace remained. Jason, with his almost absolute loyalty to Carly, suppressed his objections, trying to accept her decisions even though he was full of insecurity. But fate at General Hospital never lets these beautiful agreements last. A new adjustment suddenly appears, and this time, it's not just a small modification but a new alliance formed in the shadows, beginning a series of unprecedented obsessions. This adjustment, so crazy that it almost challenges Carly's endurance, silently pushed her into a state of heightened vigilance. Jason, for reasons he had never shared, teamed up with forces that Carly absolutely didn't trust. This action, though motivated by a desire to protect, deeply felt like betrayal to Carly. A new ceasefire cooperation was born, but not between Carly and Jason, but between Jason and the people Carly considered a potential danger to her family. This turned everything they had just worked to build into a bitter joke. The new obsession grew within Carly like a smoldering storm. She began to doubt every word, every action of Jason, every conversation between them. Every glance from Jason now felt distorted by the fear of being deceived, betrayed, or abandoned. This change proved that between Carly and Jason, every adjustment, no matter how small, carried with it a destructive potential. Once again, the fragile trust that had been built between them quickly shattered under the weight of secrets and unspoken plots. The ceasefire agreement they signed turned out to be nothing more than a thin layer of ice, concealing the bubbling lava of resentment beneath. And this new crazy adjustment, once thought to be a compromise, was now driving Carly and Jason into a vortex of trouble with no way out. Carly, with her wounded heart, struggled with a whirlwind of emotions. She didn't know whether to face Jason with forgiveness or with the burning anger inside her. The memories of Jason's sacrifices for her, the times he stood in front of danger to protect her, were now torn apart by the image of a new Jason, one who was secretly joining forces with the people she hated most. Meanwhile, Jason found himself trapped in a maze of his own making. He believed he was doing the right thing, that his sacrifice this time would keep everyone safe, and that Carly would understand. But he forgot one important thing, for Carly, betrayal wasn't in the actions, but in the lack of honesty. And the truth that Jason had hidden from her, another agreement, another partnership, was a knife wound deep in her heart. On the outside, Carly still tried to appear strong and cold. But inside, the anger, disappointment, and pain were slowly tearing her apart. She couldn't forgive Jason, and she couldn't forget what he had done. The new obsessions didn't stop there. Along with Jason's covert collaboration, real threats began to appear. The Corinthos family, once thought to be safe, was now once again in danger. Carly, with her fierce protective instinct, couldn't sit still. She would have to choose, fight to protect those she loved, or let the secrets and betrayal drown everything. And Jason, no matter how much he regretted it, could hardly undo the storm brewing between them. The relationship that had been built with blood, tears, and loyalty was now slowly crumbling under the weight of these insane adjustments. The ceasefire agreement, a fragile symbol of reconciliation, ultimately turned out to be a mere fantasy. In the harsh reality of General Hospital, where loyalty and betrayal are always intertwined, no agreement is strong enough to prevent the collapse of the most sacred things. And Carly, with her bleeding heart, was preparing for her final battle, a battle where there was no room for mercy, a battle that could shatter everything she had ever cherished. Even the man who had once been her entire world. The negotiated deal between Carly and Jason ultimately couldn't avoid total destruction. All the fragile efforts, all the vows to respect each other's lives and not interfere, now only echoed as broken sounds in their minds. While Carly stood from afar, her cold gaze witnessing the irreversible collapse. Jason had to face the brutal truth that everything he had once guarded, everything he had fought to protect, was slipping out of his grasp faster than ever. Yet, amid the ashes of failure, a new story, more chaotic and crazier than anything they had ever experienced, was beginning to take shape. And this time, it was Jason, who had always played the silent protector, who would have to step into the eye of the storm. Jason knew better than anyone that if he didn't act, if he didn't quickly regain control, everything would collapse in the most horrific way. He realized his time was running out. Brennan, the one Jason had once suspected but never truly confronted, was now manipulating an extensive underground network. His hands reached into the darkest corners, controlling forces that even Jason had to be wary of. Brennan's insane control over General Hospital was like a thick fog tightening around it, preventing any efforts to uncover the truth, covering up all the evidence with a perfect camouflage. If Jason hesitated even slightly, the entire truth would be buried forever in the darkness. While Carly remained immersed in her fury, torn between the feeling of loss and betrayal, Jason had no choice but to begin acting, knowing that this time, he might have to sacrifice everything. With cold patience and an indomitable will, Jason quietly began gathering the smallest pieces about Brennan, every unusual meeting, every shady transaction, every loyal henchman inadvertently revealing themselves. All of this Jason silently pieced together into a comprehensive picture of a monster disguised as a powerful CEO. And in the process, Jason was forced to confront painful memories of past failures, times when he couldn't save those he loved, the ghosts of the past whispering in his ear that this time would be no different, that he would lose everything again. But Jason refused to give in. He refused to let fear control him, because this time, it wasn't just his honor at stake. It was the lives of innocent people, the safety of Carly, Michael, and the children. And Jason swore to himself that he would not let Brennan win. As Jason delved deeper into Brennan's dark secrets, his obsession grew. Every step, every action felt like betting his life on the line. And Jason knew that once he exposed Brennan, the forces behind him would not stand idly by. There would be bloodshed, there would be sacrifice. And he was prepared to bear all the consequences because if not him, it would be Carly, Michael, and those he swore to protect with his life. And Jason would rather see himself sink than watch them suffer one more time. But just when Jason thought he had everything under control, when he believed his plan was closing in on Brennan, an unexpected event exploded, shattering all his careful calculations. A secret informant, whom Jason had trusted for so long, turned on him, revealing his plan to Brennan and causing the entire underground network Jason had painstakingly built to be wiped out in one night. Jason, from the hunter, became the hunted. A real explosion that not only cost him his advantage but also made him the #1 target to eliminate. Racing against time, evading Brennan's hunters. Jason realized he couldn't face this storm alone. He needed an ally. But the only ally he had ever had, the one he had trusted with his life, Carly, was now the most distant stranger to him. How could a person who had lost trust come back? How could he restore an alliance he had broken himself? Jason had no answers, only the knowledge that if he couldn't, everything would end. Not just for him, but for everything he had ever fought to protect. Amid the tangled plots and looming dangers, Jason didn't give up, because he understood that the crazy events unfolding, the obsessions pressing down on him, could only be resolved one way: expose Brennan, bring all the truth to light, even if it meant paying with his own life. Because if not, General Hospital would never be a safe place again, and the people Jason loved would live forever in the darkness of fear and loss. As Jason delves deeper into the dark schemes to expose the truth, Carly remains stubbornly clinging to the little trust she has left for Brennan. Despite enduring significant hurt and witnessing the collapse of her agreement with Jason, Carly still believes Brennan can offer her stability, a chance to rebuild everything she has lost. She convinces herself that Jason's warnings are just jealousy and blind protection stemming from old habits he has never let go of. But Carly doesn't realize that her blind trust is pulling her into a new web of control, where Brennan is slowly tightening his grip around her with subtle and calculated manipulations. The pressure of this control is steadily mounting, day by day, hour by hour, like invisible ropes strangling the freedom Carly has always prided herself on holding. Her decisions are gradually no longer truly her own. Brennan, in one way or another, has infiltrated every aspect of Carly's life, from personal relationships to the projects she is involved in. And while Carly is desperately searching for a support system, she doesn't realize that she is being manipulated in a more ruthless way than any betrayal Jason ever warned her about. Jason, with all the knowledge he has uncovered, understands that if things continue as they are, Carly will not only lose herself but will also become a tool in Brennan's hands to cause even more damage. Then, as if by cruel and unavoidable fate, Jason uncovers new evidence, irrefutable evidence, something that could completely change the narrative Brennan has carefully crafted. It is evidence of the poisoning of Sunny, a crime Brennan orchestrated, hid, and manipulated to push Sunny into the arms of death, while also shaking the foundation of the power structure Sunny had built over the years. Jason knows that revealing this evidence will not only shock General Hospital but will create an unprecedented shockwave in the hearts of those who have trusted Brennan, especially Carly. Because for Carly, Brennan is not just a partner, he represents the hope of rebuilding her life. Exposing Brennan means shattering that fragile hope. Which means Jason will once again have to strike a mortal blow to the heart of the woman he swore to protect with his life. The story Jason holds in his hands is no longer just about exposing a dangerous enemy. It's also about loyalty, betrayal, and the unavoidable pain that will spread like a great flood, sweeping away everything fragile that remains between him and Carly. Jason understands that once this evidence is exposed, the pressure between them will explode into a violent battle, where there will be no room for mercy, where even the most beautiful memories will be burned away by the fury of the truth. The pressure is mounting higher, secrets are piling up. Doubts and unspoken fears are pushing everything to the brink of collapse. Jason, once the most solid presence in Carly's life, is now the one preparing to reveal the truth Carly least wants to face. The evidence Jason holds about Brennan's direct involvement in Sunny's poisoning is not just a crucial piece, it is the spark for a new shock that will blow apart General Hospital. Amid schemes and betrayals, amidst lies woven into a web and trust being exploited until it is drained, Jason understands that there is no turning back. He must do what is right, even if the price is losing Carly forever. And Carly, when that painful truth is revealed, will face the harshest choice of her life: continue deceiving herself to cling to rotting illusions, or accept the brutal truth that the trust she once gave Brennan was nothing but a deadly trap. General Hospital is moving toward an inevitable breaking point, where each character will have to choose between truth and lies, between loyalty and betrayal, between love and hatred, and Jason, with the evidence in hand and pain in his heart, will be the one to ignite the flame of truth, even if it burns the world he once fought to protect. While Jason is plunging into a silent battle to expose Brennan's crimes, Carly continues to increase the pressure on Jason with the harshest accusations. Carly, with her wounded pride and burning anger, relentlessly attacks Jason over the mistakes with Sasha. The fact that he hid the truth about Michael's inheritance, and that Jason decided to cover up Sasha's lie about a non-existent child, inadvertently damaging Michael's reputation and position in this tumultuous world. To Carly, Jason's actions are not just lies. They are a direct betrayal of everything they once fought to protect together. And that rage, fueled by pain and a sense of betrayal, is now erupting into unforgiving attacks. While Jason tries to balance the war against Brennan with the effort to salvage what's left between him and Carly, Carly keeps pushing him into confrontation, not giving him a moment's peace to breathe. One of the crazy events unfolding is Carly, instead of seeing the bigger picture of Brennan's dangers, focusing all her anger on Jason, turning him into a scapegoat for the failures and losses she cannot control. Carly, with an unwavering stubbornness, is creating immense pressure, pushing the already fragile situation closer and closer to a breaking point. The new explosion is smoldering beneath the surface, and Jason feels it in every glance, every word from Carly, in every suffocating silence between them. What started as a simple betrayal is now evolving into an all-out war, where every word, every action carries the weight of destruction. Carly's change in attitude is not only destroying Jason's fragile efforts to expose Brennan, but also shaking his own rationality, a man who has always been steadfast and cold in every situation. The tension between Jason and Carly is no longer the small cracks that could easily be mended, but deep fissures threatening to drown them both in a whirlwind of hatred and misunderstanding. One of the biggest ideas forming is that Jason will be forced to make a new adjustment, a risky move that could completely change the game. But every step Jason plans to take is now obstructed by Carly's pressure. Every move he calculates is put in jeopardy by the relentless hostility Carly keeps increasing. Jason knows that if he lets Carly continue like this, she will not only destroy him, but will unintentionally assist Brennan, turning his efforts to expose the enemy into a nightmare that cannot be saved. This new danger, the danger coming from the person Jason once loved and trusted the most, is slowly pushing him to the point of no return. Carly, with her anger nurtured by misunderstandings and pain, is creating a toxic environment to the point where Jason can no longer tell who is a friend and who is an enemy. Every time Carly questions him, every time she brings up Sasha as proof of Jason's betrayal, it is another dagger into the already fractured trust between them. And Jason, as strong as he is, cannot help but feel each of those daggers eroding the loyalty, the sacrifice he once gave to Carly unconditionally. In Jason's mind, every adjustment he once made, every plan to save Carly, to save Michael, to save General Hospital, is now incredibly fragile under the pressure of Carly's relentless attacks. And as a natural consequence, the new adjustments Jason must make are slowly leading him into even more dangerous situations where just one small mistake, one moment of weakness, could cost him everything and leave no chance to save not just himself but everyone he swore to protect. Carly, whether intentionally or not, is becoming the most dangerous enemy to Jason right now. And Jason understands better than anyone that if he doesn't act quickly, if he doesn't find a way out of this insane spiral, everything will end in pain and regret. General Hospital, once a place that witnessed countless battles for honor, for love, for family, is now about to face another war, a war where the enemy no longer hides in the shadows, but exists in the hearts of those who once loved each other the most, where Jason and Carly, once soulmates, are slowly turning into opposing forces with no mercy. And the greatest explosion still waits ahead, with consequences no one can foresee. The relationship between Jason and Carly, once a symbol of unbreakable loyalty, is now being pushed into an unprecedented obsession, a silent yet intense emotional whirlwind, pulling both into a state of irreparable instability. Misunderstandings, secrets, and unresolved wounds are piling up, accumulating day by day, hour by hour, causing the once immortal bond between them to tremble like a leaning tower on the verge of collapse. Jason, with his heart heavy from the betrayal he has been forced to witness, and Carly, with the aching pain from actions she perceives as a stab in the back, are silently drifting towards a dangerous precipice, where even a single misstep could send them plunging into the abyss of hatred and despair. But as everything begins to fall apart, as trust is torn into pieces that scatter in the wind, a new adjustment emerges, like a final command that Jason imposes on himself. This adjustment, carried with cold determination and uncompromising ruthlessness, is that Jason will strike against Brennan, will expose the one who has pushed everything into disaster, no matter the consequences. Jason can no longer afford to hesitate, no longer allow ambiguity to hold him back. In his eyes, Brennan now embodies everything that must be eradicated: lies, manipulation, and betrayal. And Jason knows that if he wants to save what's left, if he wants to give Carly a chance to escape the tightening spiral of danger around her, there is no other choice but to take action. However, Jason cannot deny a painful truth: Carly, despite her anger and bitterness, is still his closest friend, the woman he cares for most in this life. That feeling, deep and silent like an undercurrent, has never faded, no matter how many storms they've weathered. Because of this, every step Jason prepares to take against Brennan weighs heavily on his heart. Because he knows that this action could pull Carly into even greater wounds. Jason is not just fighting for justice, for the truth, but also fighting for the unspoken love he has for Carly. A love that is both his greatest strength and his most vulnerable weakness. The story is exploding at an uncontrollable pace, as Jason, carrying all the pain, all the suppressed anger, moves step by step toward the inevitable confrontation. Each of his actions, each strike against Brennan, is like a thunderous explosion within the heart of General Hospital, signaling the onset of a battle fiercer than anything that's ever come before. This new explosion is not just about exposing a dangerous enemy. It's also about confronting the deepest pain within Jason, the pain of having to betray the woman he swore to protect, even when she turns her back on him. Jason knows he cannot back down. Brennan is becoming increasingly dangerous, tightening his grip around Carly, Michael, and everyone Jason loves. If Jason doesn't act, there will be no second chance. But he also understands that every move he makes to bring Brennan down will push Carly further away from him, forcing her to choose. Stand with the painful truth or continue living in the sweet lies that Brennan has woven. And Jason, though his heart is torn, is ready to accept that consequence. Because he knows that sometimes love doesn't mean holding on, but allowing the one you love to find the light on their own, even if that path no longer has your shadow. The pressure continues to rise, each minute, each second striking like a hammer on the fragile block of patience that's left between Jason and Carly. And when Jason strikes, when the most horrifying truths about Brennan are exposed, when all the secrets, all the crimes are brought to light, a real earthquake will shake General Hospital. Not only shattering the fragile alliance between Jason and Carly but also smashing the final illusions that Carly is desperately clinging to in order to avoid facing the truth. In that moment, when the most furious storm passes through, only two people will remain, once so deeply in love, once fighting side by side without promises, now standing on opposite sides of the battlefield, gazing at each other through the irreparable ruins. And Jason, with a heart full of wounds, can only hope that, no matter what happens, Carly will eventually understand one thing. He never stood against her. He only stood against everything that could harm her, even if it meant facing her directly.